If you watched a lot of cricket in the 90s and 2000s, this Tendulkar 6 in the Desert Storm Sharjah match is how you would like to think of as India's rivalry with Australia in ODIs. However, in reality, it was more like this.
After winning three consecutive World Cups, Australia had a bunch of retirements, and the ensuing slump from 2008 met with a resurgent Indian ODI team under MS Dhoni that turned this rivalry around and made it more equitable. Dhoni passed the captaincy baton to Kohli in 2016, and since then, Kohli has bent the rivalry in India's favour. Australia, on the other side, have vacillated between great to mediocre back and forth depending on the number of injuries, retirements, and ball tampering indiscretions that they've had. Now, okay, the ball tampering mention was a little bit of a low blow, but still worth a mention.
Let's dive deeper into one of cricket's most enthralling rivalries. In this episode, we will be looking at one day internationals only.
2 years after their last full tour of Australia, India are down under again. The interval between these tours seemed to be only getting shorter and shorter. In the 1990s, India only made two tours of Australia, once in 1991-92 and another one in 99-2000. However, in the last 12 years, Australia and India have played 8 bilateral ODI series and 3 tri-series. That is a lot of one-day internationals. Clearly, the two biggest financial bigwigs of the cricketing world know how to milk the cash cow. India and Australia have played in 12 ODIs since January 2019, with India holding a slight edge with 7 wins, including a win in their World Cup match last year. In the last bilateral series in Australia, India won 2-1 after losing the first match. This was the series where Australia did not have Steve Smith and Dave Warner as they were still serving their 1 year ban for the ball tampering scandal. Australia then came to India 1 month later and for a 5 match series. And after losing the first 2 matches, Australia won the last three, including chasing down 359 quite comfortably. Just before the pandemic hit, the two teams played a contextless 3 ODI series in Jan 2020 where India won 2-1. I cannot imagine a more useless 3 match series. Granted, it was fun to watch Kohli, Rohit, Dhawan, Smith, and Warner go up against each other, but it felt like Ganguly made a phone call to Cricket Australia's chairman and told him that we have a 1 week gap and would you like to come over for a run feast? The first time India played against Australia in an ODI was not until 1980 in a Benson Hedges tri-series between India, Australia and New Zealand. This was the infamous series where Captain Greg Chappell asked his brother Trevor to bowl underarm to the Kiwi number 11 batsman in the World Series Cup final. India as an ordinary ODI team was a very ordinary team back then, and only Kapil Dev really knew what he was doing. He had a strike rate of 100 plus in that series. Sunil Gavaskar, on the other hand, was still getting his head wrapped around the format, and after many years of playing it, he still only had a very impressive 50 as a strike rate from the 10 matches he played in that series. Did you know this was the debut series for Yuvraj Singh's dad and known loudmouth who preferred to speak before thinking? Fast forwarding a bit, India obviously became world champions in 1983 and also won the World Championship of Cricket in 1985 that was played in Australia. Did you know that India actually lost to Australia by 162 runs in a league game in the 1983 World Cup? However, they did win the other match in that same World Cup against Australia. During the mid 80s, Australia was rebuilding as a team under their amazing captain Alan Border, and this culminated in them being crowned world champions in 1987. During the 1987 World Cup, Australia defeated India by 1 run at Chennai. Yes, the same ground where 1 year before that, the same two teams had played out their second tied test. Even though India lost badly in every Brunson and Hedges series, 1980, 1986, and 1992, they did have the upper hand when it came to other multinational tournaments. Until the 1996 World Cup, India had won 8 out of their 12 matches that Australia and India had played in multinational tournaments. These include numerous tournaments in Sharjah and the MRF Cup that was held in India in 1989 and other such tournaments. From 1996 to 2001, India and Australia did not play in any ODI bilateral series at all. They played in a new number of multinational tournaments, with India winning 7 of them and losing 12, including 4 consecutive losses in the disastrous 1999-2000 Indian Tour of Australia, where except Tendulkar and Ganguly, and at that too Ganguly occasionally, everyone else forgot how to hold their bats. That series was really comical. I would get up in the morning, watch McGrath and Lee bowl a few overs, only to see some knuckle-headed batting by the Indians, and then get pissed off, switch off the TV. By the time I left for school in the morning, the Indian innings would be over. In the evening, I'll come back, wait for the TV highlights to come on, and it'll be like a slap fest where Gilchrist would insult every Indian bowler in some way or the other. This theme was played out quite regularly, only where the Australian batsmen took turns to hand out those insults. This was the theme for the whole series. Sachin was so hurt by the ineptitude of his team that he stepped down from captaincy and never again ever wanted to even coming close to having it. Now that the ancient history, yes, ancient, since it has been 20 years since all these events happened, and my 8-year-old nephew is going to be asking me, watching this, why did you have to wait for a TV highlights? Did you not have Hotstar or Willow? Anyways, let's move on now to the next segment. Narra took over the captaincy. Sachin was in top form. Sehwag became Chris Shrikant version 2.0. Yuvraj kept leaping up in the air. Lakshman would keep the photographers happy. Dravid would move up and down the order based on the team's needs, selfless. Zaheer bowled faster than any other Indian bowler did, and Harbhajan Singh became a world-class ODI bowler only if he took a wicket in his first over of a spell. But all of this did not stop Australia from winning absolutely everything that came in their way. And this is including against India. Between 2001 and 7, India won just 6 matches and lost 19 to Australia. At that time, even an Australia A team would have been very, very difficult to beat. Gilchrist, Hayden, Ponting, Martin, Bevan, Simons, Michael Clark, and on the bowling side, McGrath, Lee, Vaughan, and many other bowlers. That was the depth and strength of this Aussie side. They were really world beaters. And if you look a little deeper, it always took either Sachin or Lakshman to come up with centuries or high enough 50s for the Indian team to even stand a chance and defeat Australia in that 7-year period. All this changed in 2008 when India's first ever victory in a tri-series in Australia happened. Dhoni's captaincy, coupled with a younger team and Sachin's batting brilliance, settled the deal for India, in the finals especially. Australia were also struggling a bit because they had just lost all those stalwarts, and Ponting was left to bridge and build up the new team. However, remember that even this Australian team had excellent players like Mike Hussey and Michael Clark, and wasn't very easy to beat at all, but certainly not as great as the all-conquering Aussies of the mid-90s to the mid-2000s. Between 2008 and 2016, India and Australia played 3 bilateral series and a few multinational series as well, but the results were more competitive this time. Between the 2007 and 2015 World Cups, the head-to-head was almost equal. However, India lost to Australia in the World Cup semi-finals in a heartbreaking match. In 2016 and 2017, there were two five-match series, one in India and one in Australia. The hosts of each of these series won 4-1, and essentially there was nothing much to choose from. The acceleration of head-to-head matchups between the two sides has been great watching, albeit it was more to fill up the financial coffers. Hey, but what the hell? I will take it. Now that the history lesson is really done, why don't we move on to our next segment? Did you know? Did you know that in 1986, India played against Australia 13 times in one calendar year? That is the highest ever. Now, the real question is which team went into it thinking, oh, I can beat them easily and stack up all the points? Did you know that Ganguly, Dravid, Yuvraj, and Sehwag have ODI averages between 21 to 27 versus Australia? Yeah, now we know what to say when Dada drops in for an advice session to Kohli or Rohit Sharma. Did you know that Rohit Sharma has hit more sixes, 76 of them in 40 matches versus Australia, than Sachin, Saurav, Sehwag, Dravid, Yuvraj, and Lakshman combined? Well, taking Lakshman out of the list is not going to do much, but still, this begs the question, why is Rohit not playing in this ODI series again? Hamstring? Was it he who pulled it, or are Dada and Ravi Shastri trying to pull something here? Did you know that Kohli is one century away from Sachin's record of 9 centuries versus Australia? This will equal the record for the most number of ODI centuries against a single team, and now Kohli has 8 from 40 matches, whereas Sachin scored 9 from 71. FYI, Rohit also has 8 centuries. Now, perhaps we now know why Rohit is not playing the ODI series and Kohli is. Did you know that Harbhajan has an eye-popping 46.43 bowling average against Australia versus 29 in test matches? I guess he kept showing the 2001 test series video to the selectors every time they threatened to drop him from the ODI team. Did you know that Vaughan has an 56.26 bowling average in 18 matches with just 15 wickets? Now, maybe this is what Harbhajan should show to these selectors instead. When he can be that bad and get selected, why not me? Did you know that Srishant has an excellent bowling average of 23.55 in 10 ODIs against Australia? However, I now need to go back and check whether he bowled any suspicious no balls. And finally, did you know that Brett Lee has taken 4 5-wicket hauls against India in ODIs? He's so good that he was even considered for the Chennai Super Kings team recently this IPL season. I mean, he already has a yellow jersey, he's 40 plus. What more do you really want? After a terrible year that has caused widespread disruption and damage to the whole world, I hope that the India-Australia series, like the IPL that just finished, transports us to an alternate world where things are okay and we are focusing on something fun. I'm going to leave you with a list of great innings, great matches, and whatever YouTube links I could find of those matches so that you can all enjoy. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will see you soon for the next episode on the test match rivalry between India and Australia.
Let's dive deeper into one of cricket's most enthralling rivalries. In this episode, we will be looking at one-day internationals only.